winning a ring. Honestly, it completely cheapens the grind when you skip the brutal hike and just charter a chopper to the summit. Whether it is Sir Charles branding him a total drama queen, Paul Pierce slapping him with the hypocrite label, or John Stockton claiming he took the easy way out, basketball royalty absolutely loves taking shots at King James. Let us break down exactly what these legends had to say. But hey, before we dive into the madness, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. First up, Charles Barkley. If anyone on earth refuses to bite their tongue when it comes to the king, it is absolutely the Chuckster. We are talking about a Hall of Fame legend, the 1993 most valuable player, an 11-time All-Star, and the most savage microphone in sports broadcasting today. The man has been firing relentless darts at the Los Angeles Lakers for over a decade, refusing to walk back a single syllable. The tension really exploded when the TNT analyst went live on Inside the NBA and detonated a massive truth bomb that shook the entire hoops community. They were breaking down the All-Star ballots, zooming in on the player polls, and analyzing why the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, secured significantly more locker room support than the Akron native. When his co-host asked if this shocked him, Chuck's response came out fast and ruthless, stating he was not surprised at all because guys simply vibe with Giannis's energy way more. He acknowledged James's greatness on and off the court, but hit him with the ultimate jab, calling him a massive drama queen. Yes, you heard that correctly. Sir Charles dropped the D word on live national TV, and he kept his foot on the gas as his co-anchors desperately tried to defend the superstar, questioning how anyone could possibly snub the Globe's top talent. The outspoken host dug his heels in with an explanation that felt even more personal. The crew was baffled, wondering what could justify leaving him off the ballot, to which Barkley casually replied that a lot of dudes just cannot stand his attitude, period. When they interrogated him about the specifics, the legendary forward did not mince words. He pointed out directly what irritated people, confirming his stance without hesitation. Asked to elaborate on his flaws, he bluntly labeled the four-time champ as incredibly passive-aggressive. That exact phrase became the cornerstone of Chuck's ongoing critique, shaping his entire perspective on how the superstar handles himself on the hardwood and beyond. If you are enjoying this breakdown, do not forget to hit subscribe to stay updated. Honestly, that live TV moment was merely a small glimpse into a much deeper feud. Rewind to 2017, when the broadcaster blasted the forward as a whiny baby for openly throwing the Cleveland front office under the bus about not giving him enough help. Even though he was flanked by two absolute studs in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, the King aggressively returned fire, labeling Chuck a massive hater and dragging up all of his old dirty laundry, from spitting at crowds to dodging massive gambling markers in Vegas. However, the Chuckster stood 10 toes down, offering zero apologies while insisting his critiques were purely objective and that getting paid to speak the raw truth was his exact job description. Then, regarding the greatest of all time conversation, the analyst laid down an uncrossable boundary. Following Golden State's brutal sweep of Cleveland during the 2018 championship round, where James appeared completely checked out and lifeless in the closing matchup, the outspoken critic reached his absolute boiling point, prompted to share his final thoughts with anyone out there who might dare to argue that his airness trails behind the current superstar. The Hall of Famer stared dead into the national television lens and dropped an instantly iconic soundbite that will live forever in broadcasting lore. He warned that if any reporter ever walks up to his face and attempts to argue that number 23 from Akron surpasses the Chicago Bulls legend, he is going to physically smack the nonsense right out of them on sight. That tells you exactly what camp the TV icon lives in. Fast forward to 2025, and he is still throwing haymakers, jumping on the Bill Simmons podcast to confess that his main gripe stems entirely from the artificial PR campaign pushed by the superstar's inner circle, desperately trying to crown him the GOAT. From the veteran's perspective, the guy is an unbelievable talent, yet simultaneously a theatrical diva, a passive-aggressive instigator, and a media manipulator, desperately steering the conversation about his historical ranking. Up next is Paul Pierce. And hey, if you want more deep dives like this, hit that subscribe button right now. While Chuck's drama stays strictly in the broadcasting booth and press conferences, the Boston legend's hatred for the King cuts all the way to the bone. You see, The Truth did not just throw shade from a cozy television studio. He strapped on his sneakers and went to absolute war against the powerhouse forward on the actual hardwood. That fierce combat spanned nearly 20 brutal years. The iconic Celtics wing, famously dubbed The Truth and crowned the 2008 Finals Most Valuable Player, clashed with his rival in 5 grueling postseason bloodbaths. Even now, the green and white legend remains one of the rare athletes who could genuinely rattle the superstar's mental cage mid-game. This toxic rivalry kicked off way back in 2004 during an exhibition match where the Boston Enforcer delivered a vicious cheap shot. That quickly escalated into a heated shouting contest with the rookie's inner circle, specifically Otis Carter in the front row, culminating in a disgusting spitting gesture directed right at the Cleveland sidelines. It was an outright blood feud right out of the gate, and the hostility just skyrocketed. During the 2008 Eastern Conference semifinals, the Celtics star aggressively clotheslined his nemesis mid-air, sending the superstar crashing violently into the spectator seats. This caused the Kings' own mother, Gloria, to jump up and unleash a verbal barrage at the perpetrator. To cap it all off, in a legendary Game 7, the Boston veteran exploded for 41 points. LeBron dropped 45, but Boston still walked away with the dub. Fast forward to 2010, Pierce and his squad sent King James packing once again. That devastating defeat is universally recognized as the exact catalyst that pushed the King to abandon Ohio for South Beach. And trust me, Paul Pierce has made it his life's mission to never let the superstar live that down. The Celtics icon sat down for ESPN's Truth Serum, and when the host grilled him on who stands as LeBron's ultimate individual nemesis, the man did not hesitate for a split second. Come on, why even ask such a ridiculous question? Obviously, it is me, he declared, and the Truth brought the receipts to back up his swagger. He boldly claimed that absolutely nobody has gone to war in more high-stakes, do-or-die playoff matchups against the King than he has. Pierce even took full responsibility for LeBron abandoning his hometown, hilariously bragging that he was the guy who personally ordered the moving trucks to ship James out of Ohio. But before we dive deeper into this savage rivalry, make sure you hit that subscribe button to catch all our exclusive basketball breakdowns. Moving past the epic trash talk, Pierce threw a massive verbal punch straight at the heart of LeBron's legacy, completely labeling the superstar a massive hypocrite when dissecting the toxic ring-chasing culture of modern basketball. On his podcast, Pierce laid it out plain and simple. The only reason James fled to Florida was to desperately hunt for hardware. You catch my drift? Was that whole move not entirely about desperately trying to snag a trophy? He argued. Pierce took it a massive step further, completely challenging the core criteria we use to measure absolute basketball greatness. He pointed out how incredibly ironic it is for James to preach about legacy, considering he bounced to South Beach, returned to the Midwest, and finally bolted to California, all in a relentless pursuit of titles. The way Pierce sees it, LeBron essentially spent his whole professional life hunting championships by bouncing around the league and desperately assembling super teams at every single stop. That shortcut mentality is something Pierce, a guy who bled green for Boston, nearly his entire career flat out refuses to respect. Things got so heated that back in 2020, Pierce completely erased the King from his all-time top 5 list, proudly choosing MJ, Kareem, Bill Russell, Magic, and Kobe instead. Make no mistake, that shade was totally calculated, and the whole basketball world caught it. Now, if Pierce's beef with LeBron was forged in the heat of playoff battles, John Stockton's hostility stems from an entirely different universe. Why? Because the legendary Utah point guard and the kid from Akron never actually clashed on the hardwood. Stockton hung up his jersey in 2003, the exact same year LeBron entered the league. And even though their paths never crossed, the Hall of Famer has surprisingly evolved into one of the fiercest critics of James's whole career trajectory. Stockton, who holds the ultimate unbreakable records in both dimes and steals, dedicated all 19 glorious years of his playing days to the Utah Jazz. He is the ultimate poster boy for that gritty, old-school mentality where loyalty trumped everything. So, when Stockton looks at modern basketball, he sees LeBron as the poster boy for everything wrong with it. This tension exploded across the internet during an explosive sit-down where the Jazz legend was pressed about modern stars abandoning their squads to manufacture championships. Even without dropping LeBron's name right out of the gate, his target was crystal clear. Let me give a little shout out to Michael Jordan right here. He began noting that his Utah squads shared that same tough DNA. "I respect the guys who just strap up their boots and declare war," he explained, painting a nostalgic masterpiece of how the league used to operate. Back then, hoopers dug their heels in, put in the grueling work, and fiercely rejected the easy way out. You know what? Let us get back to the grind. We simply have to improve. We need to hustle harder. We must play smarter rather than just looking around and wondering what he said next. Stockton dropped a legendary quote that instantly became permanently etched into basketball folklore. "Where's the easiest path? Let me just jump ship and grab a ring over there." I genuinely feel it cheapens the victory because you are not scaling the summit. You are just renting a chopper to the peak. Let me repeat that. You are not climbing the mountain. You are renting a chopper to the peak. That brutal analogy set the internet completely on fire. Sound bites of Stockton dropping that nuclear truth bomb generated millions of clicks across IG, TikTok, and YouTube. By the way, if you are loving this deep dive, smash that like button right now. The subsequent media fallout made the whole situation even more explosive. Sports analysts quickly pointed out that when reclusive legends who usually prefer to stay hidden away in Utah suddenly start firing shots at you in the twilight of your playing days, it speaks volumes about the true state of your historical standing. The forecast that dropped next was absolutely chilling. Pundits suggested that the King's aura is going to actually fade once he hangs them up. And a decade from now, fans might actively push him down to the number 5 or 6 spot on the all-time hierarchy. That is the exact type of nightmare fuel that haunts a superstar's dreams. Because listen carefully, the Utah legend is not denying James's otherworldly talent. He is arguing that the mercenary blueprint James used bouncing from Ohio to Florida, back to the Midwest, and out to Hollywood, constantly engineering super squads fundamentally cheapens every single trophy he ever touched. And hearing that from a warrior who bled for one single city for roughly 2 decades without ever tasting championship glory, well, that cuts incredibly deep. Now, let us pivot to another icon, Walt Frazier. The man is pure royalty in every single definition of the phrase. We are talking about 2 magical rings with the New York Knicks, 7 incredible all-star nods, and an immortal legacy forged during one of the most brutally punishing and gritty periods the association has ever witnessed. And for decades now, Frazier has held court. Is the King's crown slipping, or are the legends of yesterday just bitter? Welcome back to the channel, Hoops fans. We are diving into the intense heat LeBron James catches from basketball purists, starting with Walt Frazier. As the iconic voice of the New York Knicks on MSG, his vintage flair and rhythmic broadcasting absolutely captivate the audience. Yet, whenever the topic shifts to King James, Clyde unleashes absolute fire. The most explosive clash erupted on March 17th, 2019, while New York stunned Los Angeles at Madison Square Garden. The 4-time MVP was riding the pine in the final period for rest purposes amidst a totally disastrous campaign, catching the eagle-eyed broadcaster's undivided attention. Clyde pointed out how the superstar deliberately distanced himself at the far edge of the sidelines, completely separated from the squad during breaks, sparking a viral controversy. The Knicks legend blatantly accused the forward of lacking passion and completely failing to show any genuine camaraderie with the roster. Predictably, the sports world's backlash to this brutal take was swift and savage. Over on ESPN, Stephen A. Smith slammed the commentary as reckless, passionately defending the superstar's distance as pure competitive anger rather than apathy. Even rap icon Ice Cube stepped up to the TMZ cameras, forcefully arguing that the King remains fiercely obsessed with chasing rings. 24 hours later on Sirius XM NBA radio, the broadcaster attempted to smooth things over, explaining he never meant the superstar lacked general ambition, but rather felt deeply let down that an icon of his massive magnitude looked so incredibly checked out during that specific matchup. Hey, if you are loving this breakdown so far, smash that subscribe button. Anyway, terrible posture was merely the tip of the iceberg regarding Clyde's massive beef with the Akron native. The broadcasting icon absolutely despises how modern players buddy up with rivals, heavily targeting the chummy pre-tip-off embraces and giggling sessions the Lakers star enjoys with adversaries. Drawing from his own legendary past, the Hall of Famer recalled Earl Monroe arriving in New York after battling them for years, admitting they flat out refused to exchange a single word for roughly 4 weeks. Back in the day, enemies were strictly enemies, no exceptions. Furthermore, regarding the greatest of all time debate, Clyde stubbornly refuses to even mention the 4-time champion, firmly crowning Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the undisputed king, boldly claiming that with Wilt Chamberlain's mentality, he could have easily dropped 50,000 points, heavily suggesting the forward is missing that ruthless, cold-blooded edge that separates good players from mythical titans. In Clyde's eyes, the man's physical gifts were never up for debate. It is strictly his inner fire, unyielding dedication, and raw competitive grit that consistently come up completely empty. Now, let us pivot to Byron Scott, absolute Los Angeles royalty, securing 3 rings during the dazzling Showtime era next to icons like Magic Johnson and the captain. Add in back-to-back finals appearances leading the Nets from the bench and snagging a Coach of the Year trophy down in New Orleans. Dripping in purple and gold history, this veteran tactician has never hesitated to drop unfiltered truth bombs regarding the ultimate direction of his beloved franchise. And right now, his ultimate prescription for the squad is kicking the superstar right out the door. The breaking point exploded in February 2026 during a spicy interview on Power 106 FM, where the legend aggressively fired back at claims made on the Mind the Game podcast with JJ Redick. The current superstar boldly stated that today's league is vastly more difficult than the 1980s or 1990s because of psychological pressure, international skill levels, and the crazy data-obsessed speed of modern basketball. The Showtime legend practically laughed himself out of the studio. He clapped back hard, reminding everyone that his generation lived by the brutal code of demanding actual bloodshed for a whistle, stressing that the intense physical violence they endured makes today's soft defensive setups look like a completely different sport, calling the forward's ridiculous perspective completely delusional. However, the legendary guard refused to simply leave it at a mild disagreement. He crossed the line entirely, demanding the superstar pack his bags immediately. After claiming he respected the guy's game, he declared this current season must absolutely be his finale in California. To quote the man directly, "You cannot stay here anymore." Hearing a verified Los Angeles icon order the king to kick rocks is utterly jaw-dropping. Before we unpack this bitter history, make sure to drop a like on the video. This feud actually stems from way more than an isolated internet soundbite. The former coach's deep-rooted resentment rewinds all the way to 2010 when he took over the Cleveland bench mere moments prior to the infamous decision to take his talents to South Beach. Left holding the bag with an awful roster, the tactician suffered through a horrific 64-166 win-loss ratio across 3 miserable campaigns. Unsurprisingly, those dark days created lasting scars. Jumping into the fray, Shannon Sharpe passionately defended the king on his nightcap broadcast, blasting the former coach for holding a petty grudge while highlighting how the current superstar completely resurrected Los Angeles, recruited Anthony Davis, and ultimately hoisted the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Despite all those massive achievements, the Showtime alum remains dead set on the idea that the veterans Hollywood era is completely cooked. Fans immediately caught the massive hypocrisy of the coach hyping up the purple and gold as a deeply loyal brotherhood, during the exact same conversation where he actively campaigned to violently kick one of the organization's greatest modern champions out onto the street. Now, enter Shaquille O'Neal. The massive big man easily ranks as the most unstoppable juggernaut to ever lace up sneakers on a hardwood floor, boasting 4 rings, 3 finals MVP trophies, and a brutal play style that shattered glass and literally forced the league to rewrite the rule book. Yet, even though the Diesel often stands up for the Akron prodigy, he has equally dropped some of the most venomous and targeted attacks regarding the forward's legendary journey. The drama initially ignited in 2011 when the center roasted the king for over-distributing the rock during high-pressure, legacy-defining playoff situations. Witnessing the superstar shy away from clutch shots throughout the 2010 postseason battle versus, are your favorite NBA legends hiding a massive grudge against the king? hit that subscribe button because we are spilling the tea. Reflecting on that epic 2011 championship round against the Mavericks, the Diesel was completely stunned. Speaking with Cleveland.com, Shaquille O'Neal admitted he figured James could simply flip the switch whenever needed. Yet, inexplicably, the superstar froze. Shaq painted a picture of seeing the icon dish the rock out to Mario Chalmers despite having a wide-open opportunity, calling it an absolutely baffling decision. In O'Neal's mindset, if you claim to be the ultimate franchise player, you never defer under crunch time pressure. You fire away. You own whatever outcome happens. However, O'Neal believed James simply lacked the guts to pull the trigger. Fast forward to 2021. After James whined to the media regarding the jam-packed league calendar leading to player health issues, O'Neal blasted him live on CNBC. The Hall of Famer pointed out that with 40 million folks losing their jobs while athletes rake in hundreds of millions of dollars, complaining over lacing up your sneakers for hoops is incredibly tone-deaf. O'Neal insisted he would easily endure 3 consecutive game nights without a peep, adding that he refuses to throw pity parties because everyday citizens are out there grinding to survive. Jump to 2025, and the big man targeted James's historic endurance, claiming the only reason the King has lasted this many seasons is due to the league getting ridiculously weak. He argued that modern basketball lacks grit, noting how any hard hit instantly triggers massive financial penalties or benchings, meaning defenders just do not deliver punishing blows these days. O'Neal bluntly stated he will never respect today's millionaires the way he reveres the tough-as-nails icons from his own era, but the most telling confession dropped in 2023 when O'Neal revealed that watching James shatter Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's legendary career points milestone actually sparked a serious wave of professional envy. The Diesel hated missing out on being part of that elite historical debate. That raw honesty speaks volumes regarding the messy, mixed emotions circulating around the superstar. Before we dive into the spiciest feud yet, smash that like button. Now, let us unpack the absolute harshest backlash James has ever faced. Why? Because this shade was not thrown by a bitter opponent. It was not delivered by a retired veteran judging from the sidelines. This venom came straight from someone sharing his own locker room, Russell Westbrook. Fans expected James and the explosive guard to dominate Los Angeles as an unstoppable tandem back in 2021. Instead, the experiment crashed and burned horribly. The squad stumbled to a miserable 33-49 record, completely blew their postseason chances, and shipped Westbrook out of town. Yet, per Uran, Weitzman's explosive 2025 release, a Hollywood ending, the dreams and drama of the LeBron Lakers. The actual truth behind their toxic fallout had absolutely zero to do with hoops. The pages reveal a crazy incident from a Los Angeles training camp in October 2022, featuring a surprise drop-in by actor Will Smith. Per the inside sources, James was initially plotting to ditch the workout altogether, claiming he was booked solid and literally walking out the facility doors. However, upon hearing the Hollywood A-lister was arriving, the King pulled a fast 180. He spun right back inside, hijacked the entire Q&A panel, dragged a 30-minute chat into a nearly hour-long spectacle, loudly recited lines from the actor's films, monologued about his own journey, and transformed the team event into his own personal theater production. Meanwhile, the superstar guard just sat off to the side, aggressively shaking his head while rolling his eyes at the cringe. Following the performance, while grouping up for a picture, Westbrook allegedly leaned over to a fellow player and whispered, "I despise that phony garbage. I simply refuse to vibe with it." But the friction went way beyond that single celebrity encounter. The author notes that the point guard became incredibly irritated by the King's constant performative behavior. James loved announcing to the press that The Godfather was his ultimate cinema masterpiece. Yet off camera, he could not recite a single iconic line. He loved name-dropping literature he supposedly finished, yet displayed zero actual knowledge whenever somebody tried initiating a real conversation about the chapters. Worst of all, James went on television demanding everyone let Russ be Russ, all while secretly orchestrating backroom deals to permanently kick him off the roster. After the superstar later played innocent regarding those swap rumors, his furious teammate quickly informed his inner circle that James was lying through his teeth, because for an athlete whose entire reputation thrives on being unapologetically real and gritty, watching the king maneuver like a slick, PR-obsessed politician was completely sickening, making these leaked locker room tensions one of the most explosive storylines gripping the sports world in 2025. If you are loving this deep dive, drop a like. So, there is the rundown, multiple angles of attack on the guy widely crowned as the best active talent on earth. Charles Barkley branded him an attention-seeking diva and a locker room tyrant. Paul Pierce labeled him a massive hypocrite for desperately ring-chasing despite trashing that exact mentality. John Stockton blasted him for taking a luxury chopper straight to the summit rather than earning the brutal hike. Walt Frazier shrugged off his legacy entirely. Byron Scott basically told him to pack his bags and leave Hollywood. Shaq claimed baby soft rules are his true secret to longevity. And finally, his own comrade, Westbrook, slapped him with the ultimate phony label. So, does this avalanche of shade actually tarnish what the king has achieved on the hardwood? We will let you argue that out. However, nobody can deny that while this icon dedicated his life to cementing a flawless GOAT resume, he accidentally engineered something equally massive. An incredibly deep roster of high-profile rivals who refuse to bite their tongues. Drop a comment below telling us which critic spit the hardest facts, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more elite coverage. The most undeniable argument on the field today. Hey, since you are still hanging out with us in the final quarter, do your team a solid by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel for more explosive sports takes. We will catch you on the very next broadcast.